Switek falls down a long dark hole on today's Miami Vice. Hard Knocks was directed by Vern Gillum and was written by Ken Solars from a story idea by Solars, Robert Ward, and Scott Shepard. We're a dozen or so episodes away from the end of the series, and the character arcs of our main cast are beginning to reach their conclusions. Vice trails a gambling den located inside a semi-truck as it rolls into Miami. When they stop the truck, the driver detaches the cab and gets away while the bookies in the back are taken into custody. While all this is happening, Switek attends a high school football game scored to Big League by Tom Cochran and Red Ryder and chats with his old buddy Mac, played by Jordan Clark. Mac's son Kevin is the star quarterback, and Mac has been pressuring his son to get recruited into the big leagues. Switek makes a call at a payphone to his bookie, a man named Chichi, and it's clear Switek has amassed far more gambling debt than he can repay. At Vice headquarters, the detectives discuss the bust. They were able to arrest several bookies, but Chichi was not among them. After the briefing, Castillo tells Switek his promotion to sergeant was turned down due to budget cuts. Chichi, who is played by Ismael Carlo, whom we last saw in Season 3's Cuba Libre, meets with his boss, a man named Goodman, played by Shape of Water's Richard Jenkins, whom we last saw back in Season 1 Smuggler's Blues. At this point in Miami Vice's 5th and final season, guest stars who haven't previously appeared on the show are few and far between. Shortly thereafter, Chichi is killed by Goodman's goons. Switek gambles at a private casino where he runs into Kevin, the football-playing son of his buddy Mac, who is there with his agent, a man named Jerome Horowitz, played by theater star Victor Slezak. Switek is concerned about Kevin, who appears to be losing money wildly and recklessly. Kevin, who is played by Richard Joseph Paul, assures him he's got it under control. At headquarters, Vice opens an investigation into Chi-Chi's murder. Switek has been missing work a lot, and a concerned Tubbs and Crockett cover for him as best they can. Since Goodman has now taken over Chi-Chi's books, his goons beat up Switek over his unpaid debts and tell him to convince Kevin to throw a big game in order to settle his account. The goons also manhandle and threaten Kevin. We find out that Switek has a super pretty and supportive girlfriend, Holly, played by Felicia Rayfield, who we last saw in Season 4's Missing Hours. Switek is agitated about his debts. He won't tell Holly what's wrong, but she probably figures it out when she accidentally overhears a threatening phone conversation with his bookie. Switek takes Kevin to a strip club and urges him to throw the game to appease Goodman. Kevin's agent, Horowitz, turns out to be in Goodman's pocket. He took Kevin to the gambling dens and deliberately got him in debt so Goodman would have a hold on him. Switek, who has illegally bugged Goodman's office, listens in on his conversation with Horowitz. Switek ends up going on a long drunken gambling binge, wandering from gambling den to gambling den in a montage of debauchery and despair set to Nobody's Perfect by Mike and the Mechanics. In the middle of all this maudlin behavior, Miami Vice manages to sneak in a quick sight gag when Switek drunkenly stumbles past a theater marquee advertising Sweethearts Dance, which was in theaters at the time of this episode and which starred Don Johnson. Switek ends up getting into a brawl at the strip club, and Tubbs and Crockett haul him out of there. Switek tries to blame all of his troubles on Holly, but to their credit, Crockett and Tubbs are having none of this. Switek refuses to tell them what the real problem is. Kevin refuses to throw the game, so Goodman's goons kidnap Mac in an attempt to put more pressure on the kid. Goodman breaks into Switek's home and threatens to kill him unless he can get Kevin to cooperate. Switek heads to Horowitz's office and roughs him up and gets him to tell him where Goodman is holding Mac. Horowitz pulls a gun, they struggle, and Horowitz ends up falling to his death over a railing. Switek calls Crockett and Tubbs to tell them he's at the club where Mac is being held, and he's going to take Goodman down on his own. He enters the club and takes out a few henchmen before Tubbs and Crockett arrive to help him out. He holds Goodman at gunpoint, and Goodman tells him he can't arrest him because he's in possession of too much incriminating evidence against Switek. Mac, who's been strung up from the ceiling, kicks Goodman over the railing, and Goodman is electrocuted in some wires. A lot of people fall to their deaths over railings in this episode. With his father free, Kevin no longer feels obligated to throw the game, and his team wins. Kevin meets with Switek later that night to tell him he's cut a deal with prosecutors in exchange for probation, but he promises to leave Switek's name out of everything. After Kevin leaves, Crockett stops by. Crockett quietly gives Switek Goodman's gambling ledger, which has Switek's name all over it. A broken Switek says he's a good cop. Crockett assures him he knows he is, and as Switek breaks down into sobs, Crockett hugs him. Story-wise, this episode shares a lot of similarities with Season 2's The Fix, in that it centers around high school football and gambling debts and pressure to throw a big game and fractured father-son relationships. The Fix was fine, but nothing special. And I would say the same about this episode, except having it focus all around Switek really does elevate it. There's something genuinely touching about seeing Switek in a state of deep chaos from the grueling stress of Vice work, and with his personal life swirling in chaos around him, unable to find any way out of it. He's digging himself into a hole he ultimately won't be able to get out of, and it's hard to watch because we've spent 4.5 seasons with Switek, and we like him, and we want him to get his act together. That last scene where Switek is confronted by a compassionate Crockett, who, after his exploits as Burnett, certainly knows a thing or two about falling into chaos and corruption, is one of the saddest moments in Vice history. On the strengths of Michael Talbot's performance and that final scene, I'm going to give this one 4 flamingos. Next time, an attorney attempts to swindle a lot of cocaine out of a drug lord, much to the distress of his idealistic protege. In the meantime, please subscribe to my channel to keep informed, and I'll meet you back here later.